Yeah. Quinn on the mic, I'ma lace it with truth. Phillip in the back, calling plays from the booth. Podcast vibes, broadcasting the word. Sharper than the two-edged sword. Every verse heard on my arm strap. Shield tight like a glove. Faith in my veins, powered by God's love. Ephesians 6:11, yeah, it's the drill. Put on the full armor, stand firm in his will. Armor up, we don't back down. Shield of faith when the world comes around. Sword in my hand, I'm ready to fight. Jesus is the captain leading through the night. Yeah, sports in the spirit, it's a game of endurance. Training in faith, no room for deterrence. Quinn and Phillip, tag team for the kingdom. Breaking down walls till the world can see them. Helmet of salvation, blocking the lies. Belt of truth, yeah, I'm suited to rise. Yeah, shoes fitted tight, spreading peace while I step. I run this race with Jesus, no regret. You feel the heat, that's the fire of the spirit. Voices in the dark, but I don't even hear it. Face my defense, prayer's my offense. Victory in Jesus, yeah, it's immense.
Welcome back to Armor Up Athletics, episode 14. 2 touchdowns in, Phillip. My co-host, Phillip Leviner, here with us tonight.
What is going on, Armor Heads? What's going on, Matt? Glad to be here.
Hey, man, we've got a good show lined up for you. We've got some highlights from the Sherall prayer rally, FCA prayer rally that Phillip and I joined in. And Phillip, I got to say this, man. You downplayed how much influence you were going to have on this thing. Like, you were up there speaking and, like, putting down some words, man. You did a great job.
You know, I was talking today with my parents and some other people. I've always been a pretty good speaker, but I get really nervous when it comes to talking about God. And every time that I've done it, it's like I go into this mode where God just takes over and it's just my body up there and it's him speaking. Because I caught myself afterwards. I'm like, did I just say all that? Because I had no words when I went up there, and then the Lord just moves, and He's able to put the words that I need to say at the time I need to say it, and I'm just glad that to be a vessel that He's using, man. I mean, again, like we said from the beginning, I hope people don't see Phillip up there. I don't want that. I want them to hear God, and I think if we stay humble and stay in His Word, and we're doing it the right way. I mean, obviously, we wouldn't have 150-something thousand views if it wasn't for God. And again, I'm not bragging on the views by no means, but God's in this, and He was there, Sunday night, and it was great, man. I enjoyed it.
Yeah,
you get on a little bit of a roll.
Yeah, you were definitely on a roll, man. And we had 120 plus people there. The youth groups that came up and performed with their worship, it was extremely powerful. It was amazing. They played some Brandon Lake Gratitude, which is one of the top 2 played songs on my Spotify right now for sure. They threw it down. Second Chance Ministries threw it down. They did a great job. Have them on my playlist rotation now. Bought a hat while I was there with Second Chance Ministries. They did an amazing job. And then our final part was like the big speaker, Casey Clark. What a powerful message that he dropped for everybody there that night.
I'd heard about him. That was the first time I met him and Miss Tammy was telling me about him. And when we talked to him that little bit of time before he went on stage, I knew this man was fixed to be powerful. Like he was telling us that he used to be a drug dealer and gangbanger. And you can tell he's been in those battles. But when he got on stage and the fire came out of him for God, it was just unreal how he took all of that and turned it into what he is now. It's just truly amazing story from that guy. And he was really dynamic. And I mean, he had me locked in with him.
Yeah. It was definitely a powerful message. Somebody that came from the bottom, was saved, and then now is up there passionately telling his story. 120 plus people, man. Huge prayer circle at the end. That was awesome to be involved in. Just a great night altogether. One of the things that stuck out to me, Phillip, and I don't know if you realize this, but when you were speaking, you kept throwing out the number 30, the number 30, the number 30. And then there's a guy that comes up to you and I at the end of the show, and he was asking us if we had looked up the significance of numbers. And, in the Bible, there's no coincidence. If there's numbers in there and there's links, they're done for a reason, right? So he
Yep.
urged us, you in particular, to go look up the number 30. He knew what it was, but he wasn't going to spoil it for us. So then after the next day, I actually texted you about it, and I know you got it pulled up or ready to share. Tell them what number 30 was.
So the reason I use the number 30 is that's the roundabout number of years that I lived in the world and lived in sin. I always say I wasted 30 years of my life. Well, he brought up the significance of 30 was when Jesus started his ministry. He was 30 years old. But I dug a little deeper into that. In the Old Testament, priests began their service at age 30. Joseph was 30 when he stood before Pharaoh. David was 30 when he began his reign as king. But what got me is the number 30 in the Bible symbolizes maturity, readiness, and new beginnings for public life and leadership. And that's what we taught when we started this whole thing with the podcast. It was new beginnings for us, right? It was something new. It was getting in the public. It was being ready for this challenge, being mature enough to handle it, and stepping into a leadership role for God. And I'm telling, when I read that, Matt, I just was like, I was speechless. I mean, it's just fun. This man didn't know us, walks up to me, heard that in my message, and then gives me that information. And then a day later, or 2 days later, I look it up, and there it is. I mean, God's message is very clear. If you don't believe it, it doesn't get any clearer than that from God saying, here you go. So it's crazy. And I think you looked up a number too, didn't you?
Yeah, so I couldn't be left out. So I was like, well, what number is significant to my life? And number 19 was my jersey number in high school and college. So for 8 years, this was my number. I still, like, when I sign a document, it has a 19 in my signature. It was just like habit. So 19 was my number. So I was like, I don't want to be left out. I got to find what this number means. Hopefully it means something. And so I went looking it up. And this is what I found. The number 19 is linked to God's judgment and fulfillment of his plans, which can be blessings or consequences for disobedience. That hit me. Fulfillment of his plans. Everything that I've been through, everything that you've been through, and he brought us back. And I think looking up the number 19, the fulfillment of his plans, blessings or consequences. And I always tell our players something very similar that hit me when I read this. You can use your talent for good, or you can waste it. And that's where I kind of led with that. I was like, man, 19, the fulfillment of his plans, blessings or consequences. So I can use my words, my platform, my coaching, my whatever, and fulfill his plans. And if I don't, there's going to be consequences for it. So I love it, man. The numbers thing, never really thought about it until that guy was talking to us. And I think Phillip, 30 and 19 are definitely where we are in our lives and our walk with Christ right now.
Absolutely. And to dig a little deeper into this thing, and again, I talk with a lot of people, and I'm really interested in the Bible more now than I've ever been. We were talking about, I just happened to start talking about with a friend that I wake up every night between 2 and 3 o'clock. And I'm like, I'm getting old, I wake up and I look at the clock. He said, have you ever looked at the spiritual time realm, the spiritual clock? And I said, I have no clue what you're talking about. He said, well, God has the clock time wrote out. And I haven't even told you this yet. But people that wake up at certain times fit a certain job description for God. Between 4 and 7, they're prayer warriors. They pray. If you wake up between 4 and 7, you're called to pray and pray for the world and pray for the problems. Well, between 2 and 4 are protectors. They're the ones that protect. They go out and they kind of lead the charge. And he was telling me this, and he's like, how long have you been doing that? I said, man, I woke up between 2 and 3 pretty much for the last 10 years. I mean, it's just something that I do. It never fails. He said, well, God is trying to call you to tell you that you're here to be a protector and you're here to be a leader for God. And I'm like, between that and then you take the 30 thing, it's like, okay, God, now you're messing with me. But everything, what we it's not really a coincidence, Matt. That's God. We pawn it off as coincidence. A lot of people do because maybe they're not trusting God or they don't know God. But I think once you cross that line into where we're at, there are no coincidences. Those are godly moments that are happening that we have to learn to embrace. And to go one step further, when we talk about confidence, the thing that I've been lacking to put myself out there a little bit more, like to get on the stage, is the confidence. I've been a little bit unconfident about taking that role and just going out there and just start talking. I've been trying to talk more, even at work in our morning meetings. I try to give a devotion and try to talk more about God. I'm finding more that I do that, the more confident I'm getting. And who knows? I mean, I don't have any plans. Somebody asked me the other night, it's like, are you in the ministry? I'm like, no, bro. I can't even spell that, right? And I don't ever want to consider myself a pastor or preacher or minister. That's not what I am. I think, if anything, I'm a gardener for God. I'm trying to plant a seed somewhere. I want to introduce people to God. That's where we're at. I think with this show, I think with everything that we're doing, I don't need a title, but if you want to call me something, call me a seed planter or a gardener, because I just want as many people to meet God that we can put in front of them, and then God's going to do that work. He'll water it. He'll take it to the next level. And this week's just been amazing. Sunday night was amazing. And again, coincidence or whatever you want to call it, it's just amazing how all that just come out, man. And it's like, wow, it just reassures you that God is real. That's for me. That's It's just 100% reassurance.
Oh yeah, 100%. And if you haven't figured out the title of episode 14 by now, it is Chosen, Called, Confident, with the 3 C's. In the coaching world, we kind of stick to acronyms or things that are very simple. So we say the 3 C's: chosen, called, confident. So we live in a world, man, where everything feels like a tryout. Right? We're always trying to impress somebody. We're always trying to get to the next level, or get to that next status, or get to the next job promotion or whatever. Performance determines status in this world. Rankings determine value. Approval determines identity. That's what the world tells us. But the truth is, your identity is not earned. Your identity is given. The first part of this, chosen, right? We're going to go straight to the word. 1 Peter 2:9 says, you are a chosen people, God's special possession. We are chosen, guys. We are not tolerated. We're not an afterthought. We're not a mistake. God says you belong to me. You are chosen. In sports and in our jobs and in our life, we fight to be noticed. We're trying to prove ourselves, but God doesn't evaluate us like coaches do. God doesn't evaluate us like your boss does. He doesn't want to see how you perform. He chose you before the first whistle ever blew. He chose you before the first tryout date. He chose you before you even went to that interview, because you belong to him.
And I was sitting there trying to think of a good analogy for sports. God doesn't cut you from his team. You can cut yourself by not. 'Cause I think with anything with sports, you got to put in the work, right? We talk about that all the time. You got to have work ethic. You got to have that drive. And I think it's no different with God. The only difference is God's not going to come to you and cut you off the team. You're going to cut yourself. If you don't put in the work and you don't have the drive, and again, just having this conversation today about church in general, and I might step on some toes with this one. I think I already have, but it never says in the Bible that you got to get your life together and come to church, right? It doesn't say get rid of all your sin and wear your nice clothes and then we'll let you in the door. Now, there are some churches that do that. You know, we live in this world where you got to dress a certain way or act a certain way. And I'm not calling any church out in particular, but I think in God's mind, anybody can come out for his team. Doesn't matter where you're from, what you're dressed like, what your background is. God's going to let anybody come. And I think we as Christians have got to do a better job of not vetting people before we let them in. I mean, how you're going to reach the broken and the weary and the ones that are struggling if we don't come as you are, right? We say that in the song, come as you are. And one thing that really resonated with me that Ricky was talking about in his testimony, they had sang that morning down in St. Stephen. And he said they did the altar call, and a girl came to the altar. She was crying. They prayed with her. And when she got up, she told the preacher that she was going to come to church and see what happened. And if it didn't go well, she was going back home to kill herself. Remember he said that? I don't know if you remember that. And fortunately, and I say this being kind of a little bit sarcastic, but thank God she didn't go to a church that she was wearing jeans that they didn't let her in. You know what I'm saying? She went there eating that last desperation measure. She's done with life. That church embraced her, took her in and prayed for her. And she's still alive today because we did exactly what Christians are supposed to do, which is take anybody. Come as you are, right? We talk about being made in God's image. All of us are. We're all created in God's image, and everybody is created specifically for God. He knows every hair on your head, not yours, Matt, but every hair on everybody else's head, your beard, you know, and he created us for a reason and a purpose. But you still got to come back to that drive and that work ethic and that I don't want to say that you have to do stuff for him. That's not what he asked you to do. But you got to put in a certain amount of something for him. And then at some point, it's going to be revealed to you what you're here for. But I just thought that was an amazing story. That girl was that close to death. And I got to thinking about, and again, not calling any church. I'm not saying that, I'm not getting on that part. But what if they didn't let her in that church that day?
Yeah, that's a great point. And
we had some human response, and they didn't want her in there.
Yeah. Again,
she might be dead.
Yeah, the first part of this message and chosen, I think that's a great way to put it. You know, in my notes, I put, we're not a mistake. There's so many people that may be battling certain things, battling addiction, battling a job loss, a loss of a loved one, or having a rough time in their marriage, or whatever it may be. And they get down on themselves, and the devil creeps in, and our minds automatically go to the negative and say, you're a mistake. This whole thing was a mistake. You should have never been here anyway. You should blah, 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 whatever. Those intrusive thoughts that come through our heads. We just have to remind ourselves that, again, 1 Peter 2:9, you are a chosen people, God's special possession. That'll move us to the next C, called. I think you got a verse for this one, right, Phillip?
And look, and to me, this is one of, when we say called, chosen and called are two massive words for me in Christianity, right? Because you kind of feel like, again, going back to sports, if your coach chose you to play this position, he believes in you, he saw something in you, he knows you can do that. Like he chose you, I want you to play wide receiver, Matt. I see something in you. I know it's there. We got to get it out of you, you know. So being chosen obviously is a great thing, and God has chosen us. So number one, that's magnificent. Wow, God chose me. Then to be called. So I relate that to being called on. Okay, hey man, you know, it's the bottom of the ninth. We need to hit. I need you to get in there and get this for us. I'm calling you out. I need you to get in there, you know, or hey, I need a goal. You know, I tell Jagger all the time, hey, it's time. You know, you got to take over. You're the man. You got to go do this. So my verse, and I'm stealing this from Casey the other night because he preached on this, but it is one of my favorite verses. Is 2 Chronicles 7:14. If my people, which are called by my name, shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven, will forgive their sin, and will heal their land. He broke that down to every part of that the other night. And I thought he did a great job of really explaining this verse. But if my people, which are called by my name, the first part of that, if my people, so you're his people who are called by his name, humble yourselves and pray. I mean, that's it, man. You're chosen and we're called. We're not, like you hit it on the head. We're not a mistake. This isn't an anomaly, right? This isn't a fugazi. This is real life. This is meant to be. This is prophecy. We're called and we're chosen. We just have to recognize it and embrace it.
Yeah.
And stop thinking it's a coincidence and running from it.
Yeah. So for me, when you talk about called, like before I became really good at football, before I got offered a scholarship, before I went to Vanderbilt, before I transferred, before the setbacks of my senior season getting cut short by an injury, before all of that happened, before I went into coaching, before any of these things happened in my life, like God already had a plan.
Right.
He knew the plan. He knew what was going to happen in my life. He knew that I wasn't going to be the most devout and loyal follower for some time. He knew that. But he knew that there was a plan for my life if I would just listen to him and listen to the game plan that he had, that I would come right back and I would be here with you on Armor Up Athletics.
And, you know, my dad said that today, that because I always kind of reminisce about, man, I feel like I wasted so much time. And you know, Lee's like, that's what created your story. And my dad's like, God knew this all along, Phillip. God's had this plan. You know, nothing's a coincidence. Nothing surprises God. It may surprise you where you're at, or me where I'm at, but he's not surprised. This is exactly what he wanted to happen. And
and you know, we're not called because we're perfect, by no means. Like, we are not perfect. We're not claiming to be perfect. We make mistakes. We all sin. If somebody sits in front of you and says they don't sin, I don't ever sin. You need to run as fast as you can away from that person, because there's nobody on this planet in the history that has been perfect but one.
No.
One.
And they keep that. So
yeah. So we're not called because we're perfect. We're called because he has a purpose for us, right?
I think God loves the imperfections. I think he loves the flaws. And again, we go back to each person is created differently. We're all created in his image, but we're all different in the way that we act, in the way that we respond to different situations. And you know, I think there's born leaders. I think there's people that are born for every specific aspect of life. You have to have certain people to do certain things for the world to function. But again, we go back to his time is not our time, but his time is always on time, right? I say that a lot because I don't know how else to put it. Because if I sit here and beat myself, hey man, you wasted 30 years. Well, I don't know that I wasted it, because again, is my story as powerful 30 years ago if I just got out of school and became a Christian? And not saying there's anything wrong with that. I wish I would have done that. But, you know, that's not everybody's trail in life. And now we do have a good platform and a good story to tell, and can relate to a lot of other people out there that are struggling. I mean, you know, that's the whole point of this, is to reach the unreachable, to touch the untouchable, to, you know, like the song that Ricky and them wrote, give me the broken, give me the weary, give me the ones that have been thrown away. That's the, if I go into a church right now, Matt, and I talk to somebody that's been going 30 years and you need me in your life, you've really missed going to church for 30 years. You've missed the whole point. You know, you should be good in your faith. You shouldn't need me to remind you, hey, you've been going to church 30 years, bud.
Yeah. But, you know, when you were talking there, it reminded me, and it made me think of this. the calling and the purpose and his plan and how we're called, and the things that we go through, right? The things that shape our story. You talked about 30 years of not living the right way, and it wasn't exactly 30 for me, Phillip. I'm not going to tell you how old I am because that would kind of skew the whole 30 number for me.
You're like 12.
But the things that I went through, right? Some people to this day, when they find out and we start to talking and they find out about the 3 months at St. Andrews, they're like, man, I hate that for you. I'll get a call. Man, I hate what happened to you at SAU. Man, that's awful. And people now, like when it first happened, I was loathing and why me? And yeah, this stinks and blah, blah, blah. But now when people say it to me, I'm like, best thing that's ever happened to me. And it shocks people. And they're like, what? I was like, yeah, it's the best thing that's ever happened to me, because through that struggle and through that downtime immediately following that is where I found my faith and where I figured out what I was supposed to be doing. Not just a football coach, not just a teacher, but somebody that's going to spread the love and spread the word of God through various means, whether it be Armor Up Athletics or through the way that I coach or through the way that I teach or the way that I interact with people in the community, whatever it is. I found that through losing St. Andrews, through losing that job. So again, the best thing that's ever happened to me, it was all his plan. Like it was perfect timing for what he wanted to do in my life for St. Andrews to close down.
And
so
what
I'm
we don't
thankful for that.
Right. And the same with me, because I lost 2 very good jobs in 2025. So 2025 sucked for me for jobs. You know, I'm not going to say that it was necessarily all my fault, and I'm not going to go into detail, but the thing is, I took a chance and I lost 2 opportunities for whatever reason. And you sit here and you're like, you know, what am I going to do? You know, what am I? Everything's lost. That's why I was thinking. Everything's gone. You know, I'm going to lose everything. And what I ended up gaining was everything, Matt. Everything didn't revolve around that career title. Everything didn't revolve around me being a vice president of a company, even though that's what I had chased for so long. Like I wanted that. But losing it was probably the best thing that happened to me. It reset my whole mind. It put me down into a humble state where I had to get on my knees. And what I think, I really truly believe this now, that was God humbling me. That was God putting me on my knees between the job loss and the hospital and the health situations, because I wasn't listening. I wasn't listening. There was plenty of opportunities and plenty of coincidences that were going on that I was shoving aside. You know, God, and then God finally I feel like he got to a point where he had to hit me on my head. You know, but all right. And even after getting out of the hospital, I tell people this, I still wasn't fully sold to him. I made a deal with him in the hospital. Hey, God, you get me through this, we're going to be square. I'd quit drinking, but I still wasn't fully sold out to God. I was still trying to think of ways, how can I get by? How can I still have a drink? I'm okay if I have a couple drinks. I'll be fine. And it wasn't until August when I was sitting at Long Junior High School waiting for Jagger to come out. Gratitude, come on. You talk about that Brandon Lake. I just went to Kirk's funeral, you know, a few weeks ago, and I was thinking about him and how on his deathbed that man prayed for me. And the song come on, and I just started crying. I'm like, all right, God, what do you want me to do? I don't know what to do. What do you want me to do? And something came to me and said, hush and listen. And when I did that, the part of the song that says, I throw up my hands because all I have is a hallelujah. And I hushed and I stopped snotting and crying long enough to hear that part. And I'm like, that's all he wants. All this that I've done and all he wants me to do is hush and give him praise. And I knew right then that everything that I had done was over. I wasn't going back. I think the taste of alcohol pretty much left me that day, even though I think about it from time to time. And I knew what my goals were at that point. The goal is to throw up my hands and say hallelujah in any way, shape, or form. And if you don't think God is real, guys, I can give you moment after moment since August of where he's presented himself to me. And it's just unreal, man. It's beautiful. It really is.
Yeah.
You know,
Part 1 was chosen. Part 2 was called. The third C, confident. Okay. For me, confidence isn't ego. It's not hype. It's not the one that gets out there and talks the most junk or celebrates the hardest after they score, but it's a quiet certainty, right? It's that confidence of knowing who I am. If I'm the best player on the field, I can walk out there, I can make plays, and I ain't got to talk junk. I ain't got to celebrate. Like, it shows, right? That's that confidence that shows, that quiet confidence. Confidence is knowing whose you are as a Christian. When fear says you might fall, God says, I go before you. When doubt says you're not enough, God says, I created you on purpose. What are you doubting? What are you doubting this for? I got it. You don't need the world's approval. You don't have to go out there and talk junk. You don't have to go celebrate and be the most obnoxious one on the field or the most obnoxious one at work or wherever you go every single day. But you can have that quiet certainty, that confidence. I think my favorite part that I found when I was doing my notes for tonight was quiet certainty. And I'm going to share that with our quarterbacks this week, with our team this week. Like, you don't have to go talk junk. You don't have to go brag and boast and post things on social media about how great you are and all this stuff. Like, that quiet certainty. You can tell. You can look at a quarterback, Phillip. You can look at them when they walk out on the field, how they walk and how they interact with their teammates. Are they confident in the game plan? You can tell immediately. I watch it every single Friday night. When we get into warm-ups, we go out, everybody's stretching and moving, and some of our coaches will walk up to about the 50-yard line, and we're observing the other team, seeing we're looking for size and somebody's maybe limping around a little bit, or if somebody can't move left or they can't move right. We're evaluating all these things. But the biggest thing that I like to evaluate when I'm standing there is their confidence. If they're over there yelling and screaming and hyped up, that doesn't bother me one bit. Does not scare me, does not worry me as a coach, as a player, one bit. But the guy that just stands there and he's doing his warm-ups, he throws the ball to the outside and it's on the money. He turns around and he's like, hey, good job, good route, guy, and moves on and gets the next route. And you can just see the confidence and feel it when he walks past you. That's the type of people that worry me on the football field, right? That's the people that are going to be successful. That quiet certainty in our lives, I think we could use that as a confidence mechanism to be successful in our lives as Christians, to be successful in our lives at work, at home with our families and our spouses.
Yeah, and again, you know, my shirt says "Work in Silence." That's one of the mottos that we have for 24L. And I tell my kids, you know, and I instill in them, work in silence. Let your success be your noise, right? We don't go on the field and rant and rave and, you know, do all that. We play. We work really hard, and then we go on the field and we show how we work, and our success is our noise. And that's really big for me, because one thing I really don't like in sports is, I think there's a time where you could be happy about what you did, but you're down 38-7 and you catch a first down and you jump up and slam the football and you're doing this. Come on, bro. You're down 38-7. You know, you're telling me that you're not a team player. You're an individual wanting to be seen. Because you don't understand the dynamics of you're getting your tail cut right now. You should still be playing hard and you should still be doing your job, but there's no sense in, I don't ever want to humiliate my opponent. I want to beat them. You know, and I say this all the time in life. Do I want to win? Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to be competitive to the day I die. I'm never going to stop being competitive. But I don't want to humiliate you. And after the game, I'm going to come shake your hand. Same thing where the way I live my life now, even as a Christian. I want to be the best Christian I can be. It's just my personality. You're a competitive guy. I don't want to lose. I mean, the alcohol thing's a competition now. How many days can I go? 100, 500, 1,000. I don't know. I have no intent of breaking this record. So you turn it into a competition, and then the confidence that you build from that is not arrogance. It's not prideful arrogance. It's not narcissistic, anything like that. It becomes, I've always said, you need to be confident, not cocky. That's what I've told my kids too. There's a difference, like you said, in the kid that takes the field, that's confident in how he can play, and the one out there jumping around acting crazy that if you hit one to him, he's probably not going to catch it. So confidence over cockiness, humbleness over pride, work quietly, like you said, and show what you do. Again, we go back to, you don't have to tell, if you're a Christian, you don't have to tell people you're a Christian. You can show it, right? You shouldn't have to walk up and say, hey, I'm a Christian. Just show it in the way you live, show it in the way you act, show it in your humbleness. I mean, if you got to convince somebody you're a Christian, maybe you're not a Christian.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well,
I'm going to convince you by words saying, hey, guess what, man? I'm not saying don't be proudful that you are. Hey, man, I rededicated my life for a certain event like that, obviously. But if you got to say it every day, you got to go tell everybody every day you're a Christian. All you got to do is show them in your quiet confidence in your acts. That's it.
Yeah. Well, that'll lead us right into our locker room challenge for the week. Shout out to you, Phillip, when you were up there closing out the night. You issued a locker room challenge to all 120 plus people that were there. Thank you for the shout out on stage. Don't need that, but thank you. You issued that locker room challenge for them to just go tell one person how great our God is. And I thought that was amazing. I'm hoping that some of those youth and even adults that were in attendance are accepting of that locker room challenge and are doing that throughout this week. But our locker room challenge here on Armor Up Athletics, episode 14, is very, very simple for you this week, guys. Before every practice, before every class, before every meeting, before you go into work, before you get home, whatever it is, whatever event that's about to happen for you, before that happens for you specifically, just say this out loud. Even if it's under your breath, even if it's a whisper sitting by yourself in the car, I am chosen, I am called, and I am confident in Christ. Just say those 3 statements to yourself out loud. If it's sitting in your car, right before you walk in the door at school or wherever you go, I am chosen, I am called, I am confident in Christ.
I love it. I already did it. I just did it right then.
I thought about it, and as we come up with this, it's kind of become like a staple of the show with the locker room challenge. But again, the things that we do or the locker room challenges that we issue doesn't have to be grand or crazy or wild, or not asking you to go set up a booth at a fair and preach. I'm just asking you to say these things to yourself, to reaffirm yourself, to give yourself some confidence, because your thoughts, your mind is very, very powerful, and your thoughts can control what you do, your body physically does. I tell our players all the time, like, positivity with each other. Like, be positive with each other. Let the coaches coach. Yeah, we're going to coach them and we're going to try to correct mistakes. But the mind, if you can continue to tell yourself, and you tell your teammates or you tell your coworkers or whatever it is, positive thoughts. Hey, you got it next time. You got this. We're going to fix it. We're good. Keep moving forward, man. We got it. Next play. Whatever motivational tactics that you use, it's all positive mindset, and it controls the way your body performs. And that's proven. Like, the sports science or whatever you want to call it, it's proven that your thoughts if your thoughts are positive and you're filling them with positive thoughts, positive results will happen with your performance.
Well, mental toughness, right? That's the biggest part to me of playing sports. I was literally just had this conversation on the way home with my son about there's times where you're going to have to put your mind in a different spot on the field. You're going to have to take a little bit of pain, a little bit of push, and put your mind in a different place. And we talked about this, you know, when I step on the tee box and we're joking, it's like, man, I'm about to hit this in the woods. Well, what do? You hit it in the woods. You literally just talked yourself into that. So the mental part of the game and the mental part of life sets you up for, if you get out of bed in the morning and you're like, it's going to be a terrible day. I can just feel it's going to be a terrible day. Probably going to be a terrible day. You don't put your mind in a place and you've done put your focus down the wrong path. And now I'm not saying that you get up and you say it's going to be a great day, that it won't turn into like you won't have some issues, but you're more prepared to handle that day if you're in a positive mindset. That's why I try to get up in the morning and I try to read a devotional. I try to read something positive. It's not always a Bible verse. Sometimes I just Google positive quotes, positive vibes, something to get my mind going this way. Because it's very easy for me. I've always been a very emotional person. I think people that know me know that. I'm very emotional, I'm very passionate, and I can teeter. I used to get one way or the other, you know, especially when I drank. If I drank and then I started thinking about something bad, I'm going off the rails. I mean, it's going to be a bad night for everybody, you know, and I'm still like that to an extent. I'm still sometimes an emotional roller coaster, but I've learned that mental toughness is not just for sports. It's for your life as well. But if you can learn that early in sports, it'll carry over into your life, and especially as a Christian, where it is tough. We said this at the thing Sunday night to the kids. You're living in a time where it's probably the hardest ever to be a Christian, ever. When I grew up in the 80s, the world didn't seem this bad. We didn't have all the social media and the influence and all that out there. It might have been that bad, but we didn't have the connection to it. I couldn't just Google on my phone and find all kinds of bad stuff, you know. So I think for the youth right now, mentally prepared, confidence, knowing that they're chosen, knowing that they're called, it's a great. And you always do a heck of a job of coming up with titles. I can never do that. I always just send you these blabbering texts, like trying to get it in the right direction, then it comes back. It's like I put a bunch of gibberish into a machine and then you spit it back so eloquently.
Well, for me, it's kind of turning some of those pregame speeches that I've done in the past. I mean, we've used acronyms and we've used the 3 C's, or my favorite is faith, family, football.
Yeah.
Like the 3 F's should be in that order: faith, family, football. There's just a lot of things that we use when we're talking to teams and to kids that really directly correlate and translate to the way we talk about faith. And that's why Armor Up Athletics was born, because of the cross of the relationship that you can make between sports and your walk with Christ. So I appreciate it, but it ain't me, brother. I get some stuff from upstairs, and I ain't talking about upstairs in my house. I ain't even got a second story. Okay, talking about the big man. He's the real head coach. He's taking care of some of those thoughts and some of those titles and some of the things that I say. You know, we were talking to Ricky after the show, and I was like, man, sometimes I watch the show after we release it, and I'm like, man, I can't believe I said that. Where did that come from? And it's not me. It's not like I don't plan to say some of these things. Some of these notes I do, but then we start talking and we go on rants and we get on different topics or whatever, and I say something and then I watch it back and I'm like, man, that I did not say that. That was God using my mouth to say that.
And that was everything Sunday night for me, because I had no script. I don't know that I was supposed to be that much involved, but we ran into a couple technical snags behind the scenes, and they were like doing like this from the side, and you know, I didn't have a script. I didn't know what to do, and I just listened. I hushed and listened, and God showed up, and what came out. And again, I've always said this, even when I was a paramedic. We were a vessel, right? I don't have the ability to save anybody. I didn't have the ability to save anybody when I was a medic, and I don't have the ability to save anybody now just because I'm a Christian. I'm like you. If a man says, come to my altar and I'll save you, you probably need to get out of that church. He's not doing that. He's called and chosen by God to be a vessel so God can save you. And the ones that do that best are the ones that know that. And I've worked with some really good paramedics along the way. Lee Wallace was one of them. We always knew wherever we went, whatever call we were going on, that whatever was going to happen was in God's hands. We were going to do everything we could and everything we were trained to do, but the outcome was not in our hands. That was going to be up to God, whatever happens. And I think once you realize that, one, it makes being a Christian a lot easier to me. I think knowing that I'm not in control of this, that God's in control of this, it makes it easier. Knowing that I don't have to save people is a very, take that weight off my shoulder, you know. I'm glad God doesn't say you can only get into heaven if you save 100 people. I'm out now, you know, that we only have to be gardeners. We only have to plant that seed. And it's not up to us to save them. It's not even up to us for them to accept it. We just have to introduce it and put it out there, you know. And that's the great thing about all of this that I'm really, truly learning. And every day is a learning process.
Yeah, no doubt. Chosen, called, confident. Episode 14. 2 touchdowns in, as I say. We made both extra points as well. 14 episodes in. It's been an amazing 14 episodes. And I was telling Ricky the same thing after the show. There's some people sitting out there watching from a distance on social media or whatever, and saying, at some point this is going to die off for Matt Quinn. He'll stop making these shows. We'll stop hearing about all this Jesus stuff coming out of his mouth. But I love it. I love the negativity. I love the fire. You fuel my fire. And nobody's explicitly said it to me. I do know that it's been said and do know that things have been going about you, me and you. But I told him the same thing. I loved being the underdog. I loved it when people told me I wasn't going to make it. I loved it when they told me I couldn't play football at the Division I level. I loved hearing that because I'm like, all right, I got you. I'm about to prove you wrong. So for all of you guys that have ever said something or thought something about Phillip and I doing this, if you don't change teams and join God's team, that's fine. All you're doing is adding fuel to our fire. So you're really helping God's team. So we do appreciate you in both ways.
Absolutely. And at the end of the day, you know, again, we've said this so many times. I was struggling in the beginning with what people thought of me, but I don't anymore. I've asked for forgiveness. I've prayed to God. I've believed in my heart. I've sold out to lordship and servanthood to Him, and He's the one I have to please. Because when I get to heaven and I'm standing before Him, all these people that don't believe in me, they're not going to be standing there. It's just going to be me and God. And the people that judge you the most, I think a lot of times, are probably your biggest secret fans. They're jealous of you, whatever it may be. But, you know, being a Christian obviously is difficult for many reasons. But coming out of what we've been through to sit here and be vocal for God, yes, people, the society's a tough place. It is. And I can't control what people think, man. I can't. But what I'm not going to do is sit here and feel like I keep owing people apologies. I was who I was. It wasn't the best version of me. I'm speaking on that now to try to stop other people from being that person. But I know also who I am now and where my heart's at now. And This isn't an act, right? You know, you can think that I'm going to fall off. And look, I may trip and fall, you know, and that's okay. God doesn't expect us to be perfect. What you won't see me do is when I trip and fall, I'm not falling all the way to the bottom of the mountain. You know, I may stumble, but I'm not going to fall off the mountain. That's just, you know, and again, I'm glad we got on that because I think there's something to be said for redemption, you know, and you know, if it wasn't for God's grace and mercy, then none of us would be here. Nobody. So
no, I'm with you, man. And I think Chosen, Called, Confident, episode 14. It's been a blessing for me to just discuss this with you. I feel more like a discussion tonight than I ever have about.
Yeah.
I think that's just us getting more confident in being able to do this every week too. But anyway,
it's hard to believe when we started this, we were in week 0 of football.
Yeah.
And now
starting. We are in the second round of the playoffs. And playoffs. Yep. So what I do want to mention before we recap the games and then go into the next week is these teams, these seniors that are playing their final game of high school football.
Yeah.
I want our armor heads to keep them in prayer. As much as we love football and we, somebody's got to win, somebody's got to lose. We understand that. But think about the seniors that won't ever get the opportunity to play football again. Basketball guys can go play pickup basketball whenever they want. If you're a baseball guy, you can go play softball or whatever as you get older. You can play a bunch of other, you can go play tennis or golf or whatever. You can play all these sports, but football is like the one where when it's over, it's over. You can't continue to do it. And so a lot of guys struggle with who they are as a person, who they are, what is their identity when they lose football, whether it be a playoff game, elimination, whether it be an injury or whatever it is, they're going through having to find themselves again. So my heart goes out to every single senior that played last week and this coming week and throughout the playoffs, because that might be the last time they play. The odds are that it is going to be the last time they play football because, only 3% are making it to play college football. So The reality is they're probably done. So as much as I love celebrating with my team and we win a playoff game and we're celebrating, I still look over the other sideline and feel for those guys, because even though I made it to play college football, I knew at the end of my senior season, that was it for me. And I had to figure out who I was and what I was going to do. And my answer was to stay around football because I didn't know anything else. So I had to coach it. But just think about those guys. Like, I know we love to talk junk and get on social media and brag about our teams and all that stuff. But think about those high school seniors that are playing their last football game, especially throughout the state of South Carolina and North Carolina that we're covering pretty much here, guys. First of the high school playoffs. We had the 1A matchup. It was my game of the week pick, Latta and Baptist Hill. You didn't know where Baptist Hill was, and I guess now we don't have to try to go look them up because Latta wins 34-14. The 2A toss-up was East Clarendon and Lake Marion. East Clarendon wins 14-0. Hanahan, Waccamaw in 3A. Hanahan wins 38-21. The 4A matchup was your matchup of the week, Hartsville-Crestwood. Hartsville wins 45-8.
Hartsville doing Hartsville things.
Yep. They dipped at the beginning of the season, and now they just slowly climb, and they get better and better, and that's just what they do. Yep. 5A Division II was Fort Mill and Catawba Ridge. Catawba Ridge wins 13-3. And then in 5A Division I, a.k.a. 6A in South Carolina, Lexington, Fort Dorchester. Fort D wins 24-21 in a nail-biter. Again, Phillip, last week I mentioned how we're going to do this through the playoffs with Doodles from scpreptalk.com. And he was like 80-something, 84, 85% right over the course of the season with every single high school football game in South Carolina. He hit his number again. He was 85% right on the playoff matchups. And I think that's mind-blowing that somebody can get that close using their own little system and rankings and power rankings and all this stuff.
He's better than I am, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. Moving into college, week 11.
We can skip this.
We had 8 BYU against 9 Texas Tech. That was my game of the week selection. Texas Tech wins 29-7. Texas Tech is the real deal. BYU, apparently not so much. Texas Tech, playing some good ball. Another Texas team playing some good ball here, and the other one we call it Texas A&M.
Yeah.
Texas A&M, holy smokes, they're playing some good football. They beat number 19 Missouri 38-17 to remain undefeated there at Texas A&M. We had Wake Forest and Virginia. Wake Forest was unranked. Virginia had climbed up to number 12, and Wake Forest pulls off an upset 16-9. Some of that Virginia magic, I guess, finally run out after 3 overtime wins so far this season. Another one we called out, San Diego State and Hawaii. We talked about it a little bit. Is Hawaii real? Are they the real deal? They were the underdogs, but they had played well. They kicked off at 11 p.m. local time. Hawaii is the real deal. They win 38-6. So super wild to see the Rainbow Warriors coming out on top there. And then your pick for game of the week: Florida 3-5, Kentucky 3-5. What are we doing over there, Phillip? Okay, we're done with that. We're done. The flag is officially down.
There we go.
Oh man, Kentucky wins 38-7.
It's a dumpster fire in Gainesville, buddy. It's a dumpster fire. I got no words. I can't even make any more excuses. I got nothing. So we'll see. We're moved on. We're a basketball school, blue blood, 3 natties, basketball program. So anyway, who's next?
Round 2 of the playoffs. Round 2 of the playoffs. I love the hat selection for tonight's show, by the way. Appreciate the support there. Second round of the high school playoffs coming at us in South Carolina and North Carolina. The 1A toss-up. Again, these are the projected closest matchups by Doodles on SC Prep. So 1A, we got Scotts Branch and Johnsonville. 2A, Timberland and Manning. 3A, Powdersville and Pendleton. 4A, Westside and Wren. 5A Division II, West Florence and Myrtle Beach. And 5A Division I, Somerville and Ashley Ridge.
A lot of good games there.
Well, they're only getting better. Whoever get, every round they're going to get better and better.
Yeah, and I think I'm interested in, we got a link to Sherrall at the West Florence program with Chad. So I think I'm interested in the West Florence Myrtle Beach game this week.
All right, West Florence Myrtle Beach. I like the matchup. That's the 5A Division II matchup for the week. I'm going to go to the 4A matchup, Westside and Wren. Westside High School's head coach is Brian Lane. He was our receivers coach when I was in high school. A great man of God, a great leader. His son plays for the Washington Commanders, Jalen Lane. Just a football family. He's got another son that's a minister and a pastor, and he's preaching literally all over the world. Just an amazing family. But that's why I'm interested to see that matchup because of that family and because of my former coach and somebody that I look up to and admire. So Westside Wren in the 4A matchup for me. We'll move to week 12 of college football. There's some teams on this list that are fighting for playoff spots. That proverbial cutoff is going to be 3 losses, I think. If you hit the third loss, I think you're out of the 12-team playoff. So there's some teams here that are tiptoeing that line, so they've really got to step up now to avoid that third loss and stay within that top 12. And the first one that I'll call out here is Notre Dame. They're sitting at in the rankings. They're 7-2. They're playing number 24 Pitt, who is also 7-2. So you've got two teams that theoretically could still make a push with 2 losses, but at 3, I think we can all safely say you're eliminated. The next match, again, another 2-loss team in Oklahoma. Oklahoma sitting at 12. They're 7-2, and they're playing number 4 Alabama at 8-1. Oklahoma literally fighting for a playoff spot here. This is a proverbial playoff game for them. Just hate it that they got to play it against Alabama. I guess if you're an Oklahoma fan, that would not be something you'd want to see. The next matchup, number 20, Iowa against number 19 USC. Iowa sitting at 6-3, USC at 7-2. It is a top 20 matchup. USC not completely out of it. Iowa really shocked me last week. They played well. They did some good things against Oregon and came pretty close to pulling off an upset. There's a 58-yard field goal by a former North Augusta kicker. By the way, North Augusta, South Carolina, shout out. He hit a 58-yarder for Iowa. But top 20 matchup, think you got to have it on the list. Again, you got to avoid the third loss here. Texas, 11 in the country. Texas, 7-2. They got to avoid the third loss. They're playing number 5, Georgia, at 8-1. So they're in the same boat as Oklahoma. They're fighting for their lives against Alabama and against Georgia. Tough matchups. And then the fifth and final college matchup that I'm throwing out there because I just got to talk about them at least one time. Presbyterian College, the Fighting Blue Hose, sitting at 8-2, the best record that they've had in, I couldn't tell you how long. It's been a long time since I've seen 8 wins at PC. When I was there, we were transitioning to Division I, and we won 6. That was probably, obviously the first year of Division I football. So this is definitely the highest win total that they've had since joining Division I. Prior to that, they were in D2. They're playing against St. Thomas, 7-3. So a tough matchup, a Pioneer League conference matchup there to finish the year for Presbyterian to set records for win totals. What is your game of the week there, Phillip?
Well, again, a lot of borderline games there, but the one that interests me the most is I'm gonna call Texas Georgia, because Texas looked like they were about to tank there at one point of the season, even letting Florida beat them. And then Georgia, I don't know, man. They're 8-1, so you can't knock that. They're finding ways to win. Again, I compare them. Florida played them really tight, and I don't think we're a good football team. But hey, they're number 5. Texas is finding some spunk there. I want to see that game, because if Texas loses, they're probably out of the play. They're done, right? It doesn't knock Georgia out, I don't think, but it may kind of make Georgia suspect for the playoffs. Yeah. So I like Texas Georgia this week.
Yeah, for sure. I am going with the one that you probably all know that I'm going to pick, Presbyterian College, the PC Blue Hose out of Clinton, South Carolina, the home of the great Matt Quinn.
I was almost going to pick that game. It was borderline.
Yeah, all Big South Conference. Still, I Googled this the other day, just went down a rabbit hole. Still in the top 3 in some receiving categories, by the way. Just saying. But this could be a record year for PC. Really proud of my alma mater, and hope that they can pull this last conference game out against St. Thomas and finish 9-2.
Isn't Winthrop in that conference? Big
No,
South? That's the Big Sky.
That's the Big Sky, yes.
That's right.
So we were Big South Conference when I was playing. Now they've switched over to the Pioneer League. A league that's all over the place. It's wild setup for the Pioneer League. But the Big South was crazy because I had a conference game that we went to when I was in school in New York. So tell me how that's Big South. I don't know.
ACC, California, Stanford in it?
Yeah, that makes sense. The Atlantic Coast, whatever.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So anyway, our games of the week, you had West Florence, Myrtle Beach. I had West Side and Wren. And then you went with Texas, Georgia, and I went with Presbyterian and St. Thomas. Good round 2 matchups, week 12 matchups in college. Excited. The Scots are back. We had a bye week. Now we're in round 2. So we're back as well. Round 2 playoffs, South Carolina, North Carolina. Going to be a good week. Positive thoughts, quiet certainty. Confidence, Phillip, confidence.
That's what it's all about, Matt. Having that confidence, not cocky, having that belief that you know your path and you know where you stand, and know that you're chosen and know that you're called, and being able to go out there and wear that proudly. Every time that I put that jersey on when I was playing ball, I was confident. It gave me pride, and that's the way I feel now when I serve. And to go back to something you said, I read Coach Nick Dixon's post too about his players, and I think that's great for you guys as coaches to acknowledge that and realize that, because a lot of people don't. Some fans don't. In any sport at a high school level, when you play your last game, it's tough. Even if you're going to the next level, it's never going to be like high school football again. And I think that's big, and I think we do need to remember these kids because they put a lot of hard work into this, man. I go watch Sherall practice at times, and I know they take a lot of heat when we don't win. And, like we said, you guys are judged on Friday nights for a couple of hours on so much work and critique and planning that you put into this. And I think it's great that you guys realize that these young men need support and are there for them. So definitely going to be praying for those kids, whatever happens, that they can find some identity after football and be able to go on to be good young men and productive members of society, man, and take those lessons they learned from football into life. And I hope everything works out. But there does have to be a winner and there does have to be a loser, unfortunately.
That's why we love the game, man. The heartbreak.
Yep.
Florida breaks our hearts. Carolina Panthers break my heart. It's okay. It's okay. I read this the other day. I'll leave you with one final joke, and I can't remember where I saw it on social media, Facebook, whatever. But it was after the Panthers lost to the Saints this Sunday, and man had posted, "When I die, I want the Panthers to be my pallbearers so they can let me down one more time." And I'll say, yep.
The Panthers playing with like a four-string. I mean, the Saints are playing with like a four-string quarterback. They won one game all year. We're finally getting on a roll and going there and get beat by the Saints. I mean, it's just typical Panther fandom, man.
Yep.
Typical Florida fandom. I'm thinking, hey, we're about to get this fourth win. All we got to do is win 2 out of 3. We get a bowl. Now, you know what?
I think it'd be worse for you guys to get a bowl at this point. Like, let's just end this thing as fast as we can.
The only problem if you would get to 15 extra practices, that would be it.
But it's not going to be 15 extra practices with your new coach. So
that's true. And if we get a bowl, it's going to be played like December the 1st.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, like,
thanks. You get in and then you can play your bowl.
I mean, you're not going to be able to practice with your new coach because he's going to be in the playoff. Lane Kiffin's going to be in the playoff. So,
that kind of cooled off. I don't know who they got in mind. I heard Georgia defensive coordinator. I can't remember his name, but
we're going to have to call Mike on that one. If it's Georgia, Mike will know. I
tell you, man, it's again, I think Florida's an attractive job, but it comes with a lot of high expectations.
Yeah.
You're sitting on pins and needles every time, every game.
Sometimes unreal expectations, Phillip. I'm just being.
Exactly.
I mean,
you haven't won a title since 2008. Everybody's got to calm down a tick.
Anyway, we do want you to stick around. We're going to close the show with prayer like we always do. Stick around after the prayer. We're going to throw in some of those highlights and pictures and clips from the Sherall prayer rally over at Long Middle School that we were at on Sunday evening. We're going to stick that there. I wanted to put it at the end just in case some of you that listen on Spotify, I know you can't really see pictures on Spotify, so that's okay. But on the YouTube link and on Facebook, you'll be able to see some of the highlights, some of the videos, some of the pictures and things that we went through at the FCA Sherall Rally. So stick around right after the prayer for another few minutes and watch those and check those out because it was a great, great time, a great event. Shout out to all the people that volunteered, that came out. The officers, the people that were cooking the food, Second Chance Ministries, all the youth pastors from the local area. Great time. Great job by everyone involved.
Yeah, man. Reformation Church, First Baptist Youth Groups, they did a great job. FCA of Sherall putting it on. Just a magnificent night. Hopefully we're going to put another one in for back to school and do another one. But enjoyed it. Love to see our youth praying and worshiping that was awesome.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Phillip, I'll close us out in prayer if you're ready.
Yes, sir.
Let's go. God, we thank you for choosing us. We thank you for calling us. We thank you for giving us the confidence in you, Lord. We ask that you be with all the high school seniors and the football players that may be playing their last game. We ask that you be with the unspoken prayer requests, the sicknesses in our families, the friends that are struggling with addiction, all those things, Lord. But we want to ask you tonight, Lord, to give our armor heads the confidence to continue to push through, to continue to let your light shine through our lives and through our walk with you, Lord. We thank you for everything that you've done for us and everything you're going to do for us. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Hey, good luck Friday night, Scotland. Do work.
Appreciate it, man. I'll let you know how it goes. We'll have a good home playoff game. Good home playoff crowd. But anyway, have a great week, Armorheads. Have a great week, Phillip. Love you, dude. Go Scots. Go Jesus.
Later.
All right, introduce yourself.
My name is Jagger Leviner, co-founder of 24L, and my favorite Bible verse is Philippians 4:13.
Can you recite it for us?
Is I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me.
Good job. Hey, back at Long Middle School tonight. What a blessing tonight. What a turnout. We had a great time. We got Mr. Ricky Malloy from Second Chance Ministries. First of all, Ricky, how do you think tonight went?
I think tonight was amazing. I think it was beyond what I expected. But I think it's just what God does. God shows up and does God things, and that's what he did tonight. It was awesome.
Look, we can't thank y'all enough for being here. You know, the blessing tonight, the flow of everything. But for our armor heads out there, we want to ask you two quick questions. One, what is your favorite Bible verse for our listeners?
Probably Jeremiah 29:11.
Love it.
It's probably, well, I don't have that bracelet on tonight, but that's probably, I love a lot of Romans, man. I love Romans.
Yeah.
8:28.
Hard to pick just one.
It is, man. It is.
The last thing we always like to ask people we bring on the show, the world's a tough place, right? Getting up every day and going out into the world, how do you armor up? Our verse is Ephesians 6:11, put on the whole armor of God. How do you armor up every day to go out into this world and face it? And be able to keep your faith?
I realize that he's God and I'm not. And I realize that there's an old song, you may not even know it, says, I can't even walk without him holding my hand. And the fact is, I can think I can do things on my own, but the reality is I can't. I can make a mess. I've done that. But I get up every day with the realization that he's God and I'm not. And if I don't trust him, if I don't hold his hand, I will fail.
Absolutely.
So through it all, old song. I do everything by song, sorry. Through it all, I've learned to trust him, and I've learned to find out that he can absolutely carry me through the hard times, and I trust him in the good and the bad.
Absolutely. One of my favorite songs I'm living by now is The Old Man is Dead.
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
Well, Ricky, thank you again for being here, brother.
Man.
Thank y'all for everything I did for you tonight. Armor Heads, 6 o'clock, Wednesday night. We're going to have some great episodes from what happened tonight. God moved tonight. Thank you so much. Peace. All right, welcome back to Armor Up Athletics, guys. We're out here at Long Middle School. We got our speaker tonight. We're going to let him introduce himself.
My name's Casey Clark, man. I'm from the Garden City Chapel, and man, I've been doing student ministry about 20 years.
Good deal, man. Look, we're glad to have you. So glad for you to be here. Let me ask you a question. What is your favorite Bible verse?
Oh, man.
Put you on the spot.
That's a good one. Man.
Or your go-to.
Man, Psalm 73:25 says, Who am I in heaven? No one but you, God. And it's just a reminder for me, man, to stay focused on what matters. Man, we're fighting a battle, man. We're at war. There's no doubt about it. And so, man, we got to stay armored up and ready on our toes, man. So we got to see God's face every single day. And the more we see God's face, the clearer the path becomes, man. We can win the battle.
Look, those are great words. And one last thing, you mentioned we're fighting a battle. What can you give an encouragement to our youth today? Because their battle's a lot harder, I believe, now than what we fought coming up. What kind of encouragement can you give those
Oh, for
youth?
sure, man. You got to be sold out. You got to flee. When the Bible tells us to flee, that means to get far away from. We can't see how close to sin we can get. We need to see how far away from sin we can get. We got to pray, rely on God, and make sure that our walk in God matches our talk in life.
Amen. Amen.
Amen. No, I got one question for you. You mentioned armor up. Obviously, that's our podcast name, Ephesians 6:11, put on the full armor of God. How do you armor up every day?
Man, honestly, man, I start my day by praying. Like, I have to pray every single day, man, because if not, I'll slip up, man. I'm a sinner, natural. But God saved me from that. But that's my battle every single day, man. So I get up, I put on, man, the breastplate of righteousness, knowing that God's in control, man. And then just walk with Him. But what I love about this is all the armor's for the front, not from the back, because God never intended us to run. As my Phillip Mitchell used to say, man. So I just love it. I love the fact that we can put on the armor of God and we can walk in that assurance that He is Lord.
Look, I love it. I love it. Thank you so much, Casey. Looking forward to hearing you tonight.
Yes, sir.
Guys, thank you. Armor Up Athletic.
Powered by God's love, Ephesians 6:11, yeah, it's the drill. Put on the full armor, stand firm in His will. Armor up, we don't back down. Shield of faith when the world comes around. Sword in my hand, I'm ready to fight. Jesus is the captain leading through the night. Yeah, sports in the spirit, it's a game of endurance. Training in faith, no room for deterrence. Quinn and Phillip, tag team for the kingdom. Breaking down walls till the world can see them. Helmet of salvation, blocking the lies. Built the truth, yeah.